So here's another video. This one is the small notebook. This has the grounding technique that I do not like. Notice above, there's too many freaking items. So for me, I reduce this number, or I turn to the other grounding technique behind me. So instead of 5 things you could see, I narrowed down to 1 maximum. Or minimum, depending on the circumstances and the situation. And the reason why I do this is because my brain is full of overload, constant day in, day out. And it's been that way ever since I was born. The IPD belief is not new to me whatsoever. And that stands for information processing, I'm writing it down, disorder. That one will differ. You can see there's very small writing, like 9 point or a little bit over, computer wise. When it goes to the bigger font, which I'm writing right now, it may spark different things for me that I like and don't like. Like there is literacy, information literacy, which is a course in college. Through time, it just varies on how it is used. Otherwise. So here I've got the word rewritten again. It's not really colored in pencil. Information processing disorder, IPD. That's not gonna be, if you Google IPD, that is not the only thing that's gonna show up. That's why some acronyms and abbreviations have multiple meanings. So they just don't mean one thing and only one thing. Just interesting. And I've known that since I was a teenager. But a lot of times that can go down the drain. And then it kind of invalidates the whole situation of why I brought it up in the first place. And as you can see here, I marked, one of the pages. This one is not marked, so it's blank. What I might do, like I'm doing right now, is making a form of my own flashcard on a lined paper, which I do not like doing that at all. But I'm doing it anyway. Not only sometimes do I do this, but it helps me focus. Like if there's a word, I try to write the word. So it just all differs on that. So right now I'm writing one word 2 ways. So just one way. One of my favorite subjects used to be this, reading. I was born with a lot of anxiety. So sometimes it's extremely high to a point where I need my anxiety meds. I have been working with my psychiatrist who's a heck of a lot better to work with than my physician, sort of. I haven't really worked with my physician on my anxiety yet. Not because I don't want to go, but because of the long distance I have to drive to go see my physician, who is a female, smarter than my ex, a lot of times. Somewhat. It differs on that because of how stressed I get when I'm around certain doctors, especially physicians. And then there's that keyword, anxiety, which I was diagnosed with also. So, for me, I don't like my anxiety being at five-star, which is this one. I like it being at 2-star. Because at 2-star, I'm still in control of my anxiety and it's not high up there like the other one is. This one is, actually that one is a little off because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's one off, star-wise. That's 5-star, instead of 4-star. So yeah, with reading preference, I like it at 2-star, not 5-star, for anxiety. Then I can control the reading way better. And especially when I'm reading a lot of content day in, day out. And it could be from any book I have or choose to have, want to have, need to have. So, because there's some books that I connect better with, and some I don't. And here's one. 9 Fruits of the Spirit book. This one is a little devotional book. Where on the back, it will tell you 9 fruits of the Spirit. There's actually supposed to be so-called 12, but there's 9 here. And these little books I got a while back are really cool. Because you can put in your beliefs on it. This is based off the verse 11. Why do people seem to need to make differences between the us group and the them group? Based off Ephesians 2:11 through 22. In peace. And then I said differences between unequal or being treated as equal, or one's better over another. So, like, some men prefer this type of woman over this type of woman, which can bring a lot of envy. It can bring a lot of jealousy and other words that go along with that. Even sometimes meaningful differs, because that's a higher level, like, I want justice because they got in the way. It really differs per situation, but for me to lessen the pace, up to where I'm peaceful, even if the other person is not, I'm happy about that choice. So I can mark it as I'm at a 3-star out of 5-star for peaceful. So I can actually label it that way. So basically with this book, it's got a lot of, not really a lot of writing, but it's got choices on that for writing. Okay, here's the main one. It says, what do you think is wrong with labeling people? Labeling is a I'm gonna get this wrong, but cognitive distortion. Depending on how you use it. And what it is, like, we're labeling ourselves as stupid, we're labeling ourselves as uneducated or whatever. Just because we don't have everybody's education doesn't mean we are not uneducated. Our brains are different, they connect different, they're wired different. So we need to stop that type of behavior. Even as CEOs, that's not good behavior for a CEO to have, which means Chief Executive Officer. Yeah, I gave a little bit of information on business away, but my mother was the first woman, one of the first women to give me different ideas for business words. So she helped me kind of, in a way, get my business diploma that I have now. So it's not a degree, it's a diploma, which means my brain still works. It still can hold information, it can still validate information. It just does it differently. And then I put, what do you think is wrong with, again, I'm going to repeat that question. What do you think is wrong with labeling people? The negatives outweighs the positives. I wrote that because a lot of people focus too much on the negatives, and instead of saying, okay, what can we do about that? What can we do to make it a positive from the negative? So they're putting it in reverse. Instead of the positives outweigh the negative, they're not putting it that way. They're putting the opposite way, which doesn't help connect to some people. Like some parents, they're horrible at this. They will latch onto the negative, say, oh, my kid, they said this about my kid, so I'm going to believe it now. Which is negative labeling. And because what they're doing is, instead of lessening the label, they're increasing it. They're making it like it's the only label that exists out of all the labels that do exist. And now, I'm not saying all people do that, but most people do and don't realize the damage done once they put the label there. Now, there's certain labels that, away from when you get into CBT and DBT, that you will start to realize it's okay to use, like labeling a thought. So, like with this book, it'd be a peace thought label, which isn't that bad. But depending on how you use peace, are you making peace for good, which is not catastrophizing, or are you making it for catastrophizing? If you're making it for catastrophizing, you're not following the principle of the fruitfulness. You're taking the fruitfulness and you're making it unfruitful. So you're doing the exact opposite God does not want you to do with that, because this is one of the fruits. So the other thing would be kindness, gentleness. So like in a comment, when a person is gentle, it's kind of hard to know in comments if they're gentle or not, which is one of the very, very hard things to know. It kind of goes with the kindness comment, which is, I like how you said this is kind of nice to say, but when they emphasize it in a voice that's not kind, that makes it harder to acknowledge as a good thing. So some people may not intentionally do that, but it really varies on if it is intentional or if it is not unintentional, which it might be hard to tell the difference between the two depending on the circumstances and the situation. Like like this. I just added I like, didn't like. And then as you can see there, I forgot one major part. The 3 dots. I put 3 dots because I don't want to write or type all of what I want to say. So that's what that is right there. It's because I'm learning the sidetracking in CBT and DBT. I'm learning to control that better a little bit. Not 100%, but enough so I can be content with what I'm trying to talk about to a certain degree and only to a certain degree. Because if I force too much of the issues, I'm in trouble. Basically. It's like, oh no. Like this one, touch stickers. I love touch stickers. Some of them, like this one's a touch sticker, but it's not considered a sticker. In a way it is, in a way it isn't. This is actually considered a fidget strip. This came out, well, I bought this myself, but in a kit at Office Depot. Now, there's other places you can buy it, but I bought it at Office Depot because I'm a rewards member. I've been a rewards member since 2005, so that's a while back. But they call it a fidget strip, which is in a calm down kit. Which is not always a pleasant word for me, because the way you use calm can really affect how I respond to that. So like saying calm thoughts, if you say it in intonation and pitch that is hard for me to attach to, yeah, I'm gonna respond in different ways. And not all of it's likable, trust me, I know. I had a friend that I experienced that with, and I'm like, whoops. He's an acquaintance, a really good guy. He's underestimated, as I am. We're both underestimated. As with most of my friends, we are definitely underestimated. I did not always like making friends that are girls. Common name, it just differs on if I see it that way or not, because too many people are not open-minded as much as like my ex. He's like, well, be this, be that. No, I'm not going to be something I don't want to be. I hate that. And that's kind of like saying, well, change your gender and you're a better person. What? So this would be, if you're big into drawing, this would be a good page for drawing. And what it is, it's a DBT, because it's from an advanced book, but it's DBT, and it says name the emotion. So, like, there are several hundred emotions. I mean, there is a lot more than I thought there was. So, never, this part of it, never underestimate an emotion. We do that so many times. So here it says, name the emotion, draw it, describe a related action. If you can't describe, just first find an action that best suits it, that best says that activates my belief on that. Same thing with related sound. Write the sound that says, yes, I can relate. Describe the intensity of the emotion. So, like, if the intensity is kind of like spiky, add that. Or a different one, depending on how intensity you would describe intensity. Same thing with quality of the emotion. There are many different ways you can actually do this. Describe the thoughts related to the emotion. Now that's going to be different. That's going to be difficult, especially if there's multiple. So I would just go with one. Although thoughts can differ throughout the day. And somebody said 70,000 thoughts. No. That is so fucking inaccurate. That is the most inaccurate thing. Because a person can have over 10 thoughts per day. That is a lot. So that's 70 a week. 10 times 7, 70. So as we add up more and more thoughts per day, that 70,000 becomes invalid, inaccurate per person. So that's why we gotta watch with certain accuracies and inaccuracies. Because this one guy, I read this quote, and I'm like, how can this guy think like that? Education stops. No, it does not stop. We think that, especially when we're at that stage where we just want to quit. Well, education doesn't quit. Education is not a quitter. When we think of quitting, we think of, okay, we're done. Even if we're not. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right. Well, education doesn't quit. Education does not stop. So no matter where we are, there's education all around us. All around us every day. Whether we identify it or not. Like, that wall can be completely educational. You can think of educational items to put on it, which is not always best because this is an apartment, so apartments will be very picky. They can be. Especially if you're not going to live in them a long time. Or if you are, yeah. It just varies on that. But that's part of the complexities of things. And then here, I like this idea, is I can't really see it, it says hand to mind. And this is based off of a company that, it's an additional company to that company. They're like, not co-founders, maybe limited liability partners, I'm thinking. Yeah, I don't necessarily know on that one, but it is, if you Google it, you can get their catalogs and stuff like that, and they sell educational stuff like this. Like, this is a little bottle, plastic bottle, so it's not going to break that easily unless you do stuff to it, then it will. But mainly it's for putting little messages in it. They got this by color code and actually comes with a book to help you with it. But it's like used for affirmation, gratitude, and other things for emotional needs. So like some of these videos are informational support needs videos. So that's never gonna change. That's always gonna stay the same for the need. And here's tracing paper, which you can get at different stores, by the way. I don't know. You can get it at different stores. But here's the size of some of the different flashcards. So this is a flashcard label that is used in more than one of the books that I bought. This is another one, which is not actually 100% used in books. This one differs. And then there is a puzzle piece that I traced. The puzzle piece comes from the dollar store. And it could be used in different ways. It could be used as like a little door ornament for your name. I wouldn't necessarily, I don't know who came up with this, but I don't think it's really that appropriate for autism, to be honest. I kind of see that as a negative in a lot of different ways. I would rather use the infinity symbol, like the figure eight, I think it is. Like a weird way they make the figure eight. Or the ribbon. I like the ribbon better too than the puzzle piece. Now the puzzle piece kind of sucks because when I started working on puzzles, it varies upon completion of the puzzle, the puzzle pattern, the puzzle size. So this puzzle size is okay. This is more of like a story puzzle size where you can make your own story, or you could put words on there for vocabulary, like make it into a little vocabulary book. And there is a book. It's called, I think it's called The Mailbox. It is an educational book to reinforce educational needs and priorities. And they use patterns like that so the child can get creative and put whatever they want on it. Not necessarily, the following the pattern of it, like it might have instructions on what to put on it. When you're working with kids, especially young kids, ignore that information and just let them focus on putting whatever they want in it. That way it's like, because they're still learning and they might not connect every detail, and it differs per child on that too. So if they want to draw, just let them. I started drawing when I was pretty young. I turned down art school, by the way. So they had an art contest one time on television and through the paper that I could go to art school once I complete a picture, and they're like, you can go to this art school, and I'm like, no, not that art school, out of all the art schools. So I turned it down, and it was supposed to be in Illinois. No. I had some relatives there, and I think they died in their apartment. I was not happy about it whatsoever because it was a high-rise apartment. According to what I know about high-rise apartments, they're identified after a certain floor. And I'm like, oh, interesting. I didn't know that. I really don't like certain apartments. Especially the closets. I hate the closet that I have, like this one in particular. I don't like it. If it were up to me, I would completely change it. I would make it into a walk-in closet because I love walk-in closet. A big walk-in closet. Now, when it was mini, I had a mini walk-in closet in my last apartment, and I hated it with a passion because it was so small. You could walk in, bam, and it made me claustrophobic on top of that. So it added to the claustrophobia I already had since I was a kid. And that's not fun at all. Because sometimes it might not get identified right. Especially by a doctor or a medical staff member or personnel. And it just varies per person on who pays attention to those type of details. If they try to or not, and it really varies per individual on that. So, and then another I said rag in one video, and I meant towel. So this is another towel. It says home, and the pattern is actually a cool cool pattern because there is a bedspread and other things that match that pattern. And the company is called 7th Avenue. And this one is based off credit, improving your credit. So when you buy it and it's in good standing, it will add to your credit score. Either negative or positive, depending on the circumstances. My not instant, but potato. Mini potato. And sometimes I'll do that. I'll not take the time to chew. I've done that before. Especially when I'm mood eating, which is not always good. That's a horrible habit to have. Very bad habit. I was trying to find my scissors to cut that, but obviously I'm not going to find them right away. I use at least 3 or 4 pairs of scissors. Types of scissors, which will vary throughout the day.